Welcome to episode 2 of RiteCast, a podcast where we focus on Stunlock Studios' newest title, Battlerite. I'm your host, Veritech, joined here, as always, by my good friend and co-host, One Eye. How was your weekend, One Eye? What'd you do that was exciting?
This is going to sound a little bit nerdy, but I'm a little excited about it. I joined my first WoW guild.
Oh man, you finally did it.
Yeah, I finally took the plunge. I mean, let me define weekend as in I did that this afternoon. So I guess that doesn't necessarily count, but it's something I'm still really excited about. I mean, all the times I've ever played, I've very much been a solo player. And I ran a bunch of mythics with my friend, and like I think I'm garbage, you know what I mean? And we're running these mythics, and he's like, "Dude, you're like killing it on the DPS." And I'm like, "Are you serious right now?" And he's like, "Yeah, you've been number one all of these dungeons." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he looks at the numbers, he's like, "Huh, you should actually join my guild." Like,
Nice.
Yeah, so ended up joining. That's going to be interesting. Do my first actual raid with them tomorrow, and then Thursday. So. I know it's a little bit silly, but I'm just glad Up Bum No Baby finally found a place to call her own, you know?
Nice. Yeah, because I know you were talking about doing that for a while, because I mean, it is definitely a different experience. I know that when I'm not in a guild or when I'm in a guild that's dead, it just doesn't have the same effect. Like, I really enjoy being in a guild, because you're able just to pull people together and be like, hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do that. Hey, let's raid. Hey, let's do this. And it's a lot of fun. It really kind of enhances the game for me. And I didn't realize that you weren't resto full-time anymore. That's kind of interesting. What are you, enhancement, elemental?
Enhancement. I enjoy playing elemental more, but enhancement, the damage is just so much better. It's not even funny. That, and I actually have to do stuff like dodge AoEs, so.
Yep. Yep, I actually retired my shaman because I was enhancement, and I actually got removed from a raid last week.
Ooh.
So
Oh, no.
I decided to level my warlock. So I'm going to be a destruction warlock main probably for this expansion. So hey.
Oh, that's awesome. I love warlocks. I know people talk trash about them a lot, but I like affliction. I've always enjoyed it. Gotta love those dots, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Affliction is fun. It just like I had a hard time figuring out exactly what spec to go, because it was like, you know, every post I found was like, warlocks are trash. It's like, yeah, but what's the best spec for raiding? And so I finally found out that it doesn't really matter. I mean, destruction and demonology are pretty much neck and neck, and then affliction is slightly behind, but it's whatever, you know. And the fact that my guild has no warlocks, it was like, well, I can see the writing on the wall, I'll just play warlock. So
Exactly, man. Have fun playing whatever you're playing. That's what matters, right?
Yep. But like we said, this is a podcast about Battlerite, and we're talking World of Warcraft. So we'll go ahead and jump right on into the Battlerite information. Starting like we always do every week, and we'll probably be doing from here on out. We start with the competitive side, and like we said last week during the first episode, ESL has come in and started to take over running Battlerite tournaments, and they had their early access, ESL Open Early Access Cup number 2 for both EU and NA this past weekend. And for the EU side, the team of Flower Power out of Belgium came out tops. And for the NA side, Full Daniel, the 2v2 team from the United States of America, came out on top. So congrats to both of those teams. It's exciting to see ESL doing what they do. And you know, there's really no prize pool right now. They're just trying to gauge the interest level for Battlerite, because it is a very new title. I mean, you know, they hit 200,000 players this past week, and they were super excited. And you know, Stunlock sent out a tweet on the 5th thanking all the 200,000 plus players. So I mean, it's going to grow really fast. But you know, ESL, they're really just kind of trying to test the waters. But I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised by the amount of interest in their tournaments. So the number 2s went on this past week there for EU and NA. And then kind of the quote-unquote big tournament so far, Masters of Bacon qualifiers. The number 3 went on this past week with Ripuli defeating Team Kipo Easy BT 2-0. And the Masters of Bacon qualifier number 4 signups are now live. So if y'all are interested in doing that, head on over to Masters of Bacon. You can find it all over the place. You can find it on Twitter. You can find it on the subreddit. You can just go to twitch.tv/Masters of Bacon. They have a hyperlink to their website there. You can go to the Battlefield page and sign up and register there. So qualifiers number 4 signups are live right now. And then we have another podcast that focuses on Overwatch, and we announced on Friday that there was a a brand that just stood up called Stoplock, and they have the Cal League, which is competitive Overwatch. They also have the CBR League, which I found out last Friday stands for Competitive Battlerite League. Well, the CBR League is hosting their first CBR Open 3v3 tourney this Saturday on October 15th. Registration is open to all, and for more information, check out the Stoplock website. That is stoplock.com, I believe. And if you just type Stoplock with an E, STOPLOCKE, in Google, it'll probably be the top result. The winning team of that receives the Molten Warhound mount, and it's actually a pretty sweet mount. I know a lot of streamers are giving it out right now because they got keys, but winning team for that will win the mount, and you could probably expect a prize pool to surface after a few weeks of that, because CBR League, they're pretty much top notch when it comes to production quality and giving the best events for the viewers as well as the participating teams. So again, if you guys are interested in that and you have two friends that you really want to see how you stack up against the quote-unquote best of the best in Battlerite right now, feel free to sign up and see if you can't come out on top and win 3 Molten Warhound mounts for you and 2 of your friends. So that's pretty much it for competitive. What are your thoughts on kind of what's building in terms of Battlerite and esports?
Well, this is something that'll transition nicely into what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But for me, I think all this is an extremely healthy sign for the longevity of the game. And what I mean by that is, like, I remember being in Wave 2 Alpha Heroes of the Storm and doing competitive in all of beta and things like that. And for a long time, you know, it was just bragging rights. Mm-hmm. There weren't prizes. It was just figuring out who was who and, you know, who was the best and all that jazz. And in Overwatch, we saw something very similar, albeit a lot more enthusiastically, just because everybody was like, oh my god, Blizzard first-person shooter, this game's going to be huge, so it had a very large backing behind it. Yeah. But this is generally a good sign for the game. The fact that ESL has picked them up and is already running cups and things like that. The fact that we're seeing smaller, like, you know, self-owned tournaments putting things on and things like that. The fact that we're seeing exclusive mounts being given away as prizes and participation from Stunlock and things like that. All of the signs are pointing to that this game will continue to grow and continue to do well. I haven't really seen anything that would make me think it's going to slow down anytime soon. And I mean, the numbers show that it's still growing. So I'm in favor of all these tournaments, and honestly, it makes me wish I maybe was a little bit better so I could do some CBR League. I always itch for that competition a little bit, you know what I mean? So yeah. I can't express how happy I am for it. If there is support for the game will do well. I can think of so many MOBAs that were, as games are concerned, absolutely fantastic. A good example of this would be this one that EA did. I'm blanking on the name right now, but absolutely fantastic game, but no community. So after being in beta for all of, like, I don't know, 8 months, maybe a year, something like that, it just shuts down. And I mean, it's a big concern with the market like MOBAs because it's so heavily dominated. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How are you going to compete with a game like Dota 2? How are you going to compete with a game like League of Legends? And luckily, Battlerite has the advantage of it is straight up just an arena brawler. There's no big 5v5. There's no 40-minute matches, anything like that. It's just quick action, nonstop, no frills. So they've got a good market for themselves. So as long as they can keep up the support, I think it's going to be great. I expect to see many more tournaments and many teams start to pop up.
Yep. And I definitely agree. And you did segue kind of into our next topic, which is will the community continue to grow and sustain the game long term? The reason why we're discussing this now is as I browse, you know, the official forums, I browse the subreddit, I browse Twitter. It's kind of a question that pops up over and over again. You know, long-time League player wanting to switch over. Is this game going to be long term? Will the community continue to grow and support it? You know, as a Dota player, yada yada yada. And so I wanted to cover it this week as one of our topics of discussion, just because it seems to be on the mind of a lot of people. A lot of people are really skeptical on, you know, can Title X or Title Y, you know, in this case Battlerite, can it carve out enough of a name for itself, or a chunk of a community, to really just sustain long term. And I'll go ahead and let you give your thoughts on this first before I kind of chime in and kind of probably echo a lot of what you're going to say. But I mean, it is a valid concern for a lot of people who are coming over from other MOBAs, because the MOBA genre is very saturated right now. So really, does Battlerite bring enough uniqueness to the table to really kind of sustain its own longevity and continue to build a community?
In my opinion, it does. When I pitch this game to friends, the way I explain it is that it is it's the easiest to get into, hardest to play arena you've ever done. And what I mean by that is it is so simple in terms of metagame. Like, I love the Battlerite system. There's a lot of flexibility in it, but it's not really super deep or complex, you know what I mean? At most, you're talking about picking 5 talents. At most, you know what I mean? So there's not a ton there. Where the game is good is in the mechanics of it and how it plays. That's where the depth is. That's where the skill comes into play. That's where the enjoyment is. And the fact that every single hero has 9 abilities. Every single hero generates energy and manages it differently. It's mind-blowing to me. Like, it is so fun and it is so fresh, even though on paper it doesn't necessarily look like it. And I think because of the fact that it's, in that sense, extremely complex, and it's not just a numbers game, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's more, can you dodge skill shots? Can you land skill shots? Do you know how to properly prioritize targets and things like that? It's enough of the draw, I think, to keep people interested and keep them playing.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like, yes, there are a lot of MOBAs out there. But the one thing that really, you have a big background in Dota 2. I have played a lot of League. We have both played quite a bit of Heroes of the Storm and games like Paragon and whatnot. The one thing that really kind of is a knock, and the reason why I really enjoyed playing a game like Heroes of the Storm over a game like League of Legends, and even a game like Paragon, is the fact that there's really no landing phase. Yeah, you kind of have your landing phase in Heroes of the Storm, but it's really just a rush to get level 10, to get your team ults first. With Battlerite, there is no laning phase. There are no objectives. There's no downtime. You're essentially just, beating each other's faces in with your own face. And I mean, it's super quick. Matches last, 5 to 8 minutes on average. Technically every match is a competitive match, but then again, no match really is a competitive match unless you make it a competitive match. I really feel like it has enough of a difficulty and learning curve with not being, a clicker like traditional MOBAs where you use your mouse. You have to use WASD for movement, so it kind of adds that extra layer of skill that you kind of need. But at the same time, it's super quick, it's super colorful, it's a ton of fun. I mean, it has plenty of depth, but it's also pretty shallow for someone who just wants to pick it up and just throw a couple, hey, I got 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna throw these 20 minutes into like 4 or 5 matches of Battlerite. And I went 2-2 of those 4 matches. Hey, whatever. I don't really have to take it seriously. So I really feel like it has the staying power, and the early access so far has shown that there is a community to back it up. I mean, like I said last week, the developers were not expecting the type of sales they had in early access. I mean, it exceeded their expectations 15 times over. And here we are in the third full week of entering the third full week of early access, and there's over 200,000 players. I mean, the numbers are there, and yeah, the community is never going to reach League level or Dota level. But at the same time, there's already a community. So even if the game doesn't grow, I mean, you've still got almost 250,000 people that have purchased the game and are playing. I mean, it's going to stick around. The question is, will Stunlock continue to keep the game fresh and update? And as I've already said in an interview, there are 2 champions coming, more than likely by the end of this month. So, I mean, they've already shown that they're willing to put in the time to continue to make the game fresh, and the community has stepped up and said, we really like this game. It's unique. It's nice. And I, for one, I absolutely love it. I mean, I haven't played a game of League since I started playing Battlerite. I really haven't played a game of Heroes of the Storm in the last week because I've been playing Battlerite. I mean, it's got enough uniqueness, I feel, that it will stick around for a long time, as long as the community and the developers, Stunlock, really continue to put forth enthusiasm and keep in the game growing and interesting and as colorful as it is, and just it's a ton of fun.
I think another thing worth mentioning too is it's a little difficult to judge a game that's in early access because we're not talking about some big AAA title. Like when a game like Hearthstone or Overwatch goes into beta, everybody is trying to play that game. Everybody's talking about that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all the 200,000 players, the community that's there right now, that's all very much homegrown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, there's some word of mouth going around, but even then, not a ton. You know what I mean? So the fact that they've got this much growth and this much participation this early on, I think is a really healthy sign. I think if they market properly, once it gets closer to launch or an open beta, something like that, and I think if they very carefully manage their pay model, I think those are two things that'll factor into their long-term success. And I'll go ahead and kind of lead that thought into the segue for the next thing we wanted to talk about, which was free-to-play versus early access. And a good example of a MOBA I think that absolutely kills itself with, and admittingly they don't do it anymore, but killed itself with a pricing model was Heroes of Newerth. Heroes of Newerth, was a legitimate Dota 1 clone that they also added some of their own characters, which for the record, even though I don't like Heroes of Newerth, their unique champion design, like Puppet Master, things like that, really great. Like in all, you can knock it as much as you want. There's a ton. I could do a 40-minute podcast by myself on why I hate Heroes of Newerth. But there are some things that they did extremely right with that game. The problem is when we look at Heroes of Newerth becoming popular and League of Legends, getting released and becoming popular, the big difference there was that you had to pay money to play Heroes of Newerth. You had to give them like $20-$30, whatever it was up front, and then you got all the content, all the characters, all that stuff, but you still had to give them that paywall up front. League of Legends did the free-to-play model, and in a lot of ways I think League of Legends really popularized the free-to-play model because not only was it free-to-play, but the rate at which you unlock characters and things like that doesn't really feel too bad. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons people really like Heroes of the Storm when they start playing is because for, those first levels while you're leveling up, you unlock a ton of stuff. Same with Overwatch. Whenever you roll Prestige over, how great is it? It's a box fiesta. Yeah. You know what I mean? So right now, I think there are some issues with the way that the store works in the game. I have no issue with the rate or the cost of chests. I think that's perfectly fine. No problems there. I think buying individual cosmetics, the prices are too high. When you're maybe getting, 25, 75, 100 something, maybe off of a duplicate, you know what I mean? And you only have the possibility of like 3 duplicates in a chest, which for a long time you're not going to be hitting duplicates anyways. You're never really going to be able to save up to get something you want.
Yeah.
When they're costing 3,000, 6,000, 10,000. And so that's something, while not necessarily really blaringly apparent, is something that I think could be potentially hindering to them. And admittingly, this is extremely early on, and I'm sure they'll balance all those numbers much closer to release and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's one thing that could be difficult, especially if a person did want to go to the free-to-play route. Because for those of you who are listening and who might not know, the game will be free-to-play once it's released. It's just right now you have the option to pay in for early access, and what early access gives you is some, titles, stuff like that. But the main thing is you permanently unlock every character forever whenever they release them, ad nauseum. Who cares? You get them all, right? So you're not spending those points to unlock characters too, you know what I mean? Yeah. So if we're looking at a slow currency rate, lots of characters to unlock, lots of cosmetics to unlock, it could be a little bit difficult, because nobody's going to want to have to grind out forever just to get a character. Warframe, another example of a game that in my mind is extremely fun to play. Cannot praise that game enough in terms of like mechanics and how it handles. Absolutely disgusted by their pay model. Admittingly, I haven't played that game in a year or so, but last time I played, I remember wanting to get a specific suit, and you're looking at grinding out specific missions to get it, grinding out specific missions to maybe get the pieces to make it, then combining them all and having to physically wait multiple days, like multiple 24-hour real-life day cycles to get said suit, or just give them like $15-20. You know what I mean? And so we really don't want to see that in Battlerite, because that's a huge turnoff to a lot of players. Personally, I didn't mind paying for early access. I think it's a good value. If there's a game I'm playing and I enjoy it, I don't mind giving them a little bit of money. You know what I mean? Even Paladins, which ended up just, in my mind, that's such a tragic story, right? But even then, if I have 10 hours of Paladins played, the little bit for early access is probably worth it. And even with this game, so I paid $20 for early access, right? If I play 3-4 hours, that's $5 an hour. That's half the cost of a movie ticket. You know what I mean? I think as long as they don't screw themselves over with how they do the cosmetics and the unlock rates, and as long as they have proper marketing and can get the word out, this game has all the pieces to blow up. It is just so fun. There's no other way to describe it. That's the best pitch for the game. Is I cannot think of a game that I've just had this much raw fun playing.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. And normally, like you brought up League of Legends and their free-to-play model, which really there are in today's kind of free-to-play quote-unquote model landscape. There's really only three methods. There's the League method, which is you get the game for free. If you want anything in terms of cosmetics, new heroes, whatever, you grind out match after match to get your IP, or you just buy RP. Then there's the Dota model where everything is free, every character is free, but if you want cosmetics, it's going to cost you. And then there's, the high-res model or the Smite model, which you can buy into early access for a set amount. In terms of the God pack, it's $30. You get all the gods for free, all the characters for free whenever they're released, and then you just have to pay extra for cosmetics, which is, it seems like right now, that is what Stunlock is doing. And with a game like Battlerite, with how unique it is, how fast-paced it is, how colorful it is, how fun and interesting and different it is, I, like you, have no problem paying into early access. Now, much like Smite, once the game is released, it's going to be completely free to play. But those of you who didn't get in early access, which unlike Smite, you can still buy the God Pack, I don't think they're going to have that option with Battlerite. If you don't get into early access, you're not going to get every character when it's released, and you might have to spend in-game currency. They might release a real money store option, and that's a very real possibility. But I personally, this game is worth the $20, that you pay for early access. It's definitely, it's enriching, it's colorful. They've already shown that they're more than willing to release new content, and the fact that they're going to release 2 new characters. People who got into early access are going to get them for free. People who wait and really try the game when it goes into open beta, if and when there's an open beta phase, they'll get to play for free, but they may not necessarily get those same characters. They might just get the starting characters and however many that may be, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever Stunlock decides to do. I really feel like the route that Stunlock is taking with their title, with Battlerite, is absolutely the right model. They're going to get enough people to get that capital up front that they can then turn around from the early access sales and dump that money right back into making Battlerite better, which in turn will draw more people to the game, which might even bring more people who weren't in early access into the game so that they will spend money to continue to get those cosmetics and whatnot. And even those of us who are in early access, we don't get the cosmetics for free. We still have to, grind out games. But, those people who aren't in early access who want those characters, they might pay real money. And, Heroes of the Storm does the exact same thing. You want a new character? Well, it's $9.99 or 15,000 gold. And if you want the cosmetic pack, well, it's on sale, quote-unquote, 25% off for $14.11. You want to spend $14. But I really think that's probably the smartest move, and that's really the move that Stunlock is doing right now. And it's going to continue to grow, kind of to go back on the previous thought. It's going to grow the community. It's going to grow the game. And I really think they've taken the best route in terms of pricing, keeping the game free to play when it releases. But if you want in now, early access is only $20, and it is a really good value because right now there's only 15 characters. I'm not sure how many maps there are, but they're essentially just recolors of the same map. Maybe some walls or different places here and there on the maps, but the potential is definitely worth $20, and I really like the route they took in terms of the pricing with Battlerite.
And I also did want to clarify here that this is in no way like any sort of endorsement saying, oh yeah, go pay the $20 for early access. It's just a lot of times when people ask me if the game is free to play, it's immediately followed with, is the early access worth it? Yeah. And I think when you factor in the fact that you're going to be getting every characters, I think when you factor in the fact that you're putting money into the pockets of what I believe is like a 20-something, like early 20-man team development, like maybe 24 people on the payroll, the money goes to work. It helps. You know what I mean? So don't feel like this is us saying you have to go spend $20 if you want to play this game. If you want to wait till it's free to play, by all means, please do so. There's not anything in the world wrong with that. Yeah. I just wanted to explain, at least personally, why I felt early access was totally legitimate in the case of this game.
Yeah, and you are definitely right on point. And you know, I got offered a moldy ham and cheese hot pocket. I turned it down, and I'm still speaking good things about this. You know, so. You know, all joking aside, it's a really good investment, and those of you who are still on the fence, keep listening to the podcast, and we'll keep singing the praises, you know, and also talking about the low points when they present themselves with the game. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's a good title, and it's definitely worth whatever money you end up putting into the game. But like we do every week, and we've done the first week, and we're going to do now, and we're going to do every week. As long as there are characters to cover, we will cover them and do a deep dive. Last week we did Jade, kind of the character you get when you start the game in the tutorial. Today's character is going to be Bakko, and Bakko is fun because One Eye likes melee supports, and so he's going to be able to offer a lot of insight on the character's strengths. So why don't you go ahead and dive into it and kind of explain what the abilities are, explain what Bakko does, and kind of where he excels, where his shortcomings are, and we'll just kind of discuss him a little bit.
This is a hero I'm extremely excited to talk about. Melee heroes are my wheelhouse. That's what I like to play. The only one in this game I don't enjoy that much is Croak, or that might not actually be his name, Frogbro, because I don't do assassins. That's not really my bag. But otherwise, I love every other melee in this game, and Bakko is a great example of a melee in this game. It's funny because in the tutorial where you play as Jade, he's actually your mentor and the one who's teaching you how to use your abilities in fight. But Bakko is the hero of Boulder Pass. He's, as far as I'm concerned, got a really simple, straightforward design that gives him both a lot of mobility and a lot of damage. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into his kit. His Mouse 1 is his War Axe, which is a basic auto attack melee range where he swings his axe in front of him and deals damage. Like the other melee characters in this game, his auto attack will charge his Mouse 2 spell up to 3 charges. So his Mouse 2 is Blood Axe, which is a extremely low cooldown ranged projectile where he throws his axe and it deals damage based off of how many charges you have. If you have maximum charges and you hit the target, they will become rooted, which is very valuable. It's a good way for you to not only poke because it's seriously like a 2-second cooldown, but it's also a good way where when you're dealing damage, you can stick on a target and make sure they're not going anywhere. His spacebar is his first mobility tool, and it's called Valiant Leap. He leaps into the air, temporarily becoming untargetable, and then landing at target location, dealing a pretty significant amount of damage and snaring in the AoE. He also has an EX version of this ability, which costs 25% of his energy, and he just stomps in an AoE around him, and it incapacitates everybody, making it so they can't do anything. His Q ability is his Bulwark. And now, for those of you who might not have seen Bakko, he literally just has like a giant shield and an axe. And so when you cast Bulwark, Bakko places his shield in the direction you cast it. You can turn and rotate while it's out, and it's deployed for a few seconds. While the shield is deployed, it will reflect any ranged projectiles that hit it back at the person who's firing them, and any melee attacker who hits the shield stuns themselves. So this is an extremely, extremely integral part of his kit. It's how you cover yourself when you retreat. It's how you mitigate large portions of damage or even just straight up counter some ultimates. And it's a good way to stop melee aggression if somebody tries to dive your squishies and you need to peel. His next ability is Shield Dash, where he dashes a short distance in front of him, pushing any enemies he hits and shoving them along with him. If he pushes them into a wall, it'll also deal damage as well. There's an EX version of the ability called Shield Batch, which kind of functions more or less the exact same way, except at the end of the charge, he'll deal damage, knock back, and apply a fading snare to everybody it hit. So as opposed to just being a quick gap closer or a quick pin somebody into a wall, it turns into like a large AoE knockback form of crowd control. Also consumes 25% of your energy, just like every other EX spell. His next ability is War Shout, where he shouts, lets it all out, and an AoE around him gives himself and allies a shield. Once again, this is an energy ability, costs 25 of your energy, but it's really a good tool. You can bait people into unfavorable trades or even chasing down what they think they might be kills by, an instant cast AoE ability. It's really valuable, and I think I see a lot of new Bakko players fail to utilize it properly. And then his ultimate is Heroic Charge. This is a lot like his E, his normal shield dash, except there's a small windup, and also the dash length is huge in comparison. In most arenas, you can go from one side to the other. Not only that, but it deals damage as soon as you hit a target with it, and then either at the end of the charge distance, or if you collide into a wall with a target, he will deal a massive AoE stun. I cannot express how much I love this hero. He is the definition of get in there and get fighting. Between his E and his spacebar, he just jumps around. He's incredibly difficult to lock down. And even then, he has a lot of ways to mitigate incoming damage once he jumps in just by bulwark alone. It's a really difficult spell to play around just because of how long the duration is, and you don't want any damage reflected back at you, or even worse, a stun. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I feel like, and this is particular in Battlerite, there are no hard tanks, or at least at this point in the game, no hard tanks. And what I mean by that is when we think of a tank, we think of a character that just soaks up damage and is constantly applying pressure via crowd control, right? But every melee in this game, especially Bakko, is just about getting in there and getting damage done. There are lots of games where I play as him and lots of games where I play with him where he's the highest damage dealer because he has a lot of ways to get onto individual targets, isolate them, and just out-damage them and out-trade them. I don't know what your feelings are on him, but here in a second, once you talk a little bit, I'll go over the Battlerites I think work best.
Yeah, and Bakko, and this is why we work so well as a duo, is because I like the supports and the range characters, but when I do play melee characters, I found, in terms of Battlerite, outside of Shifu, Bakko is my favorite melee character, and it's just because he's really annoying. I like to be that guy that I like to play very aggressively at times, and I like to be very cerebral in what I do. And Bakko excels at being very cerebral if you play him the right way, especially with his Q ability, because you can get in there, cause a lot of people just to get super pissed because you're in their face. The minute they turn to attack you, instead of your squishies, you can just Q and stun them or cause, a massive reflect back in their face. I feel like he's played really well. I feel like his kit's really, really solid. I really don't feel like he has any sort of weakness in terms of, character-wise. His weaknesses lie more in player skill and the player playing him rather than just the character. If you put 6 people or 4 people, if you're doing 2v2 or 3v3, up against each other of equal skill, the Bakko player, his kit is solid enough where it will allow him to excel, assuming all characters are the same skill level. I really feel like he's got a lot of good abilities. He's got a good ultimate. His EX abilities really kind of distinguish themselves from their normal abilities to the point where they're valuable to use. He's one of the characters, one of the few characters where his R is really worth burning energy to use because of that shield. I mean, it's really powerful and it's really helpful, especially in a game like Battlerite where the difference between winning and losing a match is essentially having shield, picking up health, getting healed, dodging an attack, or striking first. And Bakko having that shield on his R is really kind of a valuable asset to have in a fast-paced game like Battlerite. I mean, he's a lot of fun, and whenever I do want to play a melee, Bakko is usually one of the first characters I pick outside of Shifu. Because like you, I'm not a big Croak, I'm not a big Frogman fan. So Bakko definitely, if you're looking for a melee to play and you really want to master, you should put him near the top of your list.
Another thing worth mentioning too is the shield that you get from Warshout, I believe, is 30. I could be wrong, but I believe it's 30. And the way that health works in this game, to explain it briefly to people who might not know, because I know for the longest time when I played I didn't quite understand it. Whenever you take more than 40 damage, the difference is reduced from your maximum health. So whenever you take 40 or less damage, your health goes down, but you can just heal it back up, right? But say you take 70 damage, 30 of that will be taken from your maximum health pool, and then you'll have 40 health taken, chunked out that you can regenerate and heal up. And so when you factor that 40 is this magic number that transitions from temporary health loss to permanent health loss, a 30 health shield is huge. You know what I mean? That's 3/4 of the total you're looking for. And a lot of people, I don't think, necessarily understand that when calculating burst damage in this game. So the fact that War Shouts on a low cooldown takes 25% of your energy, I mean, it can really be valuable. It's super handy. It's good, man.
Yeah, it is. Why don't you go ahead and cover your favorite Battlerites? Because unlike you, I don't pay a lot of attention. I just think the pictures are pretty, so I don't memorize the names. But you do, and you kind of really break down what your favorites are. So why don't you go ahead and cover that for Bakko?
Whenever I play Bakko, there's normally one of two builds I go. One way more than the other one. The first build I wanted to talk about was that build, which is the bread and butter build, all-around build, which is what I use whenever I have a support or somebody who can help kind of keep me up and I don't have to be like the solo melee running in there trying to control everything. And what I consider the best typical Bakko build for tier 1 is Adrenaline Rush, which makes it so after you leap, with your spacebar, your next auto attack deals massive bonus damage. I mean, the burst that can come out of Bakko if you land the combo like leap into auto attack is enough to lower somebody's maximum health. And I mean, that's your opening move in the fight. You know what I mean? So it's a good way to increase your damage pretty drastically, and I like it for that reason. Tier 2 in this build, I prefer taking Bravery. And what that does is, once again, after leaping, it reduces all incoming damage by 1/3 for you and your allies. And this is around the area that you land. So it's more for you than your allies, but when you jump back to peel, it helps them as well. 1/3 damage reduction is, once again, huge. Like, Bakko's got a lot of these numbers that you're not necessarily factoring in all the time when you're fighting him, and so people wildly underestimate both his damage and his survivability components, and I think both of these talents play into that. Tier 3 on this build, I like taking Shield Sprint, which increases the dash range and the damage of your shield charge. Once again, Bakko's strengths are the fact that even though he's melee and he's really ineffective outside of melee range, he is super mobile. 2 jumps is not to be underestimated, and this increases the range on it and the damage. It just helps it become a more well-rounded tool. For tier 4, I always take the same talent regardless of what build I'm taking, and that's Inspiration. Inspiration increases your maximum energy and your energy gain rate. And with Bakko, I already covered how handy his R is with War Shout and how much damage he does. So just being able to generate more energy means more ultimates, more shields. It's what he needs. He doesn't need extra weapon charges. He doesn't need any of that. He just needs more energy. And then for tier 5 in this build, I prefer Reinforcement. And what Reinforcement does is when you use your ultimate, it also grants you a health shield for 5 seconds after finishing it. Once again, it helps it so you can just go in, try to isolate enemies one-on-one, take any incoming damage if your Bulwark's on cooldown. It's the talent I prefer for that. Now, the other build I do go with him, and this is the one that when I get to use it, I enjoy a lot, is more of a sustainable build. So this is a build I play when I have 2 range damage dealers and I have no support. So this is somebody who I'm going to have to be taking care of myself the entire fight, right? When that is the build I'm going, for tier 1, I like Wall Slam, which makes it so your charge incapacitates if you pin somebody to a wall. It makes it really easy to lock down mobile targets and also anybody who you need to, say stun their healer so you can focus down a damage dealer, right? It's good for that. Tier 2 in this build, I like taking Battle Lust, which makes it so when you throw your axe, it also heals based off of the charges. Since there's nobody really there to back you up or help sustain you in the fight, it makes it so you can trade one-on-one with anybody you stick to. So between the incapacitation and the bonus healing, it makes you a really tough target to duel. Tier 3 in this build, I like taking Axe and Shield, which makes it so your mouse 1 attacks lower the cooldown on Bulwark. Once again, Bulwark is an amazing ability. The amount of damage it can reflect and also the stun versus melee attackers is invaluable to him, so lowering the cooldown through auto attacks in what is generally what I consider a more aggressive build, I think is extremely handy. Tier 4, once again, Inspiration, because why would you take anything else? And then on this solo sustain build, Tier 5, I take Warbringer, which makes it so after you ult, you automatically have 3 charges. And that's good because you can ult into a heal, which has bonus damage. It'll root the target. It synergizes very well. And this is what I kind of mean about what I like about this hero. He's not really locked into one playstyle. You can do this super mobile fight and mitigate damage build and just be a constant threat that's difficult to deal with, or you can just, turn into this self-sustained monster that has to be focused down by multiple members of his team. So I like him in that he gives you options and none of them feel bad. He feels very well-rounded. Like, yes, as a hero, he's kind of weak when he's not in melee range, though even then, 2-second cooldown on a poke is not to be laughed at. But he actually has the tools to play around his weakness, which I think is really good design.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's really, like I said, he's very solidly designed. He doesn't really have a glaring weakness. He's not overpowered. In the right hands he is, but unlike a lot of other games where you have that one character that's kind of a must pick because he's super overpowered and by default has a higher skill floor. Cough cough McCree. He's very well rounded, and he's one of the better melee characters in Battlerite. And like when I said, he's also one of the ones in the tutorial. You don't really necessarily get to play him. He's the mentor, but we felt it only fitting that he be the second character we cover because he's the second character you see. Well, technically the first character you see in the game.
The other thing worth mentioning real quick, too, and this is more of a personal note, is that he punishes people who don't understand what's going on. And I absolutely love that in characters. Mm-hmm. If you look at the people I play in MOBAs, it's a lot of people who punish mistakes. And that's why I like Bakko. Earlier today, I got a free kill on a Jade because I jumped in front of one of my carries that she was ulting and reflected 2 shots back at her, and it killed her from like half health. You know what I mean? Nice. You see an Ashka charging up his pushback, and you just bulwark and knock him back instead. So besides the fact that he's got a lot of tools, I feel like he's a fun way to learn the game because he makes you feel really smart.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's a very cerebral character, and if you play him intelligently, there's mounds of rewards that you can reap from smart plays, and you just pointed out 2 of them, and I know I've personally had a couple of them myself. I mean, he's just a lot of fun to play, really a lot of fun to play. Well, we'd like to close out episodes of our podcast by really shining a spotlight on the community, especially in a game like Battlerite. As the game grows, the community will grow, and more creativity will come out of it. And isn't it fitting that the first community spotlight we do is done by a Bakko main, which has absolutely nothing to do with the character. So why don't you go ahead and cover that, because I know what it is, but you wanted to touch on it.
Yeah, it made me laugh when I found this post on Reddit because the guy's name was As a Bakko main. I felt like doing this drawing, and it had absolutely nothing to do with Bakko at all. Yep. But it was the Ashka ink sketch by Volkar von Zen, and you can find it over on Imager, and it is gorgeous. I for those of you who might have caught us on the Overwatch, I love detailed line work. I'm a big fan of comics. I'm type 3 colorblind. I really just like bold, thick lines. This is one of those that just jumps out at you. I love this ink drawing, and I really wanted to highlight it for that reason. So once again, it's the Ashka ink sketch by Volkar von Zen. The second community piece that I wanted to highlight was Zenith's Legacy by Woodpecker XL, and this is over on DeviantArt. And it's a gorgeous piece featuring Sirius. And Sirius is one of the characters that I wish I played better in the game. He's a melee support. He's got petrifies and a lot of counter and mobility. But regardless, the piece is beautiful. Lots of dark colors, lots of purple, lots of gold, tons of detail. Absolutely fantastic piece. And so that was the other big one that I wanted to do this week. Once again, that's Zenith's Legacy by Woodpecker XL. And the final one that I wanted to touch on, let me go ahead and get over here, was a Paloma piece by Marcin Basta. And Battlerite actually held a contest looking for some of the best community pieces, and more of those pieces will be highlighted. But this is the first one I wanted to bring up, just because I know last week we talked a bunch about how Paloma just seems really imbalanced and just kind of really strong in this game. And it paints her in a much less harsh light. Really soft colors, good blending, beautiful, beautiful piece, and I can definitely see why Stunlock Studio themselves pointed it out.
Yeah, it's really good, and Paloma's my favorite support, so anything Paloma related. I saw one today, but I unfortunately forgot to add it, and it was somebody had drawn Paloma without her cloak, because she has that giant spiral marking / tattoo on her torso, and it was really cool. I wish I had added it, but yeah, those are really cool. And it was funny that the first one was as a Bakko main. This has nothing to do with the character. I just wanted to point that out. But I like Ashka. He's a lot of fun. When we do the deep dive on him, he's kind of psychotic, and you have to kind of play him slightly off the rails. And so that kind of covers it. He's about to launch a couple fireballs, and you can see him building up in his palms. But yeah, I mean, the community is awesome, and you can definitely expect as the game grows, the community will grow, and as the community will grow, the creativity will come out, and we will make sure to highlight it so that you will be able to enjoy it as much as we do each week. Well, that pretty much covers it for episode 2 of RiteCast. As always, we enjoy doing it, and when you are not doing RiteCast, where can people find you at?
Well, the easiest way to get a hold of me is always through Twitter. My handle on there is @NA1I. You can reach me there pretty much anytime. I'm good about responding pretty quickly. I'm fairly active. And then besides that, you can find me podcasting 3 days a week. Mondays, we do this lovely show focusing on Battlerite. Wednesday nights at this time is when I do the Multitap podcast. And for those of you who don't know, Multitap is a group that I work with and hang out with that focuses mainly on retro games and things like that. But everybody involved, it is quite a large selection of people. So the podcast is not always about video games. It can be on movies, music. This week, as a spoiler, we're actually discussing fast food because we are more or less prepping for our Thanksgiving episode next month. And it is going to be weird, and it'll be exciting. It is definitely a little off the rails, but I highly recommend coming by and checking that out if it's something you're interested in. And then Fridays, we do The Guardians, which is an Overwatch podcast, which is focused on competitive, casual, community, anything to do with Overwatch. We talk about it and cover it. So that is where people can find me. What about you?
Yep, and as always, before I get into myself, you can follow us on Twitter at RiteCast, RiteCast. As the show grows, the Twitter will grow, and that's where you will find the most up-to-date information on our show, and each week we will tweet out before we go live. We're not really 100% set in what our time is. Last week we did 3:30 p.m. Mountain. Today we did 9 p.m. Mountain. So we will settle in on a time, and it will be probably the same every week. But you can follow us there on Twitter. As for me, it's VeritechGG across the board. Twitter at VeritechGG, twitch.tv/VeritechGG. For those of you watching live right now, that is where you're watching it at. You can find me at youtube.com/VeritechGG, and once the show is no longer live, we upload the VOD onto a playlist there. You can also follow me to my house because I gotta go get some ice cream. I need some dessert. We had family over. We did not have dessert, and I'm feeling kind of unfulfilled. So follow me there. I'm probably going to go to Target after this. But like I said, you can follow us live on Twitch at VeritechGG. We upload the VODs to YouTube. You can also catch us, the audio portions, on Spreaker. Just search for RiteCast. You can follow us on iTunes. Look for RiteCast, and also Google Play Music at RiteCast. But this has been episode 2 of RiteCast, a Battlerite podcast. For my buddy One Eye, I am Veritech, saying we will see you guys next Monday.